Hey guys, Eric here. I'm here with Lyndie Greenwood of Sleepy Hollow fame. You guys, you do cliffhangers right on this show, and you've left us now with another big one, a game-changing moment. So what can you say about where we go from what just happened? You guys were all tied to trees and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty intense. Reading that, getting that script, I was like, oh well, I guess show's done.
Right.
Well, we accomplished
He got
that.
you all.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a really hard question to ask.
Right.
I mean, to answer. Where do we go? I mean, I can't really answer that without probably spoiling everything.
Right.
But we do go somewhere, so it's not, over.
Would it be safe to say, though, that, we shouldn't just be like, oh, he killed Moloch, he's a good guy now?
No, gosh, no. I
Yeah.
mean, he's an extremely complex character, Henry. You
Yeah.
know, it's so complex, and I love that about, the character and also the way John Noble plays Henry, is he has always had aspects of both good and evil in him. You sort of sympathize with him. He has a reason for being the way that he is. He's been, abandoned, and then in some ways you're like, get over it, stop being.
Right. It's been a while.
It's been a while
Yeah.
now. But I don't think that it's going to be ever so black and white with Henry. He's all evil or all good, and the fact that he did what he did, I don't think that means that he's good. I think that means that for a moment our goals were aligned.
Right.
But what that means for the future, I'm not too sure.
You also had a big death happen, of course, and there really was no time for the characters to process that.
No.
Can you talk about what it will be like when they do have time, though, to process it and that loss to their group?
Well, I mean, it's a huge loss. And again, it's hard to speak. You say we do cliffhangers, right? So
Right.
it's really hard to. But shooting that episode was actually really difficult as an actor that way, because you're confronted with this huge change and you don't have time to process it, and you don't have time to address it, and you kind of just have to wait for the next script to see how you will. But I mean, really, I feel like Jenny is like my second life, so I have all these emotions going around about the death of Irving, and I can't express them in any way.
Right.
What do I do, and how do I feel? But I mean, it will be addressed as soon as we get back. And we all have very different ways of dealing with it, and different levels of responsibility that we feel. And, Jenny kind of suggested that he use the sword. So
Yeah.
that's not great. It's
No.
not a good feeling.
Right. Might be a little bit of guilt there.
Yeah,
I'm
I
guessing.
think so. But
Your show, what impresses me a lot about Sleepy Hollow is that it manages to land tonal shifts that some shows would not be able to deal with, because you got some pretty heavy stuff you're dealing with, with loss, with stuff with your mother, but in the framework of absolute insanity as far as what's happening, and sometimes it can play purposely very goofy. Is that interesting for you guys on set? And is it an enjoyable part of the show, but also challenging to make those transitions?
absolutely. It's why I love the show so much, that we deal with these real issues in this setting that is completely ludicrous. But it is a challenge. Sometimes trying to move, seamlessly from a very real conversation with Abby about our mother or about our personal relationship, and then, fight a ghost right afterwards. It can be very difficult, and you're like, should I just run with the silliness of it, or should I fight that silliness? Certain situations call for different things, but I think overall we've created this world that allows for that silliness, but also makes room for depth of character.
Yeah.
And so you kind of just roll with it and hope for the best.
Right. Your character, when I think about it, she's actually kind of gone through some of the sort of heaviest stuff with her history. Obviously both she and Abby share the history with their mom, but the fact that you were locked up and whatnot. Are you hoping at some point that maybe you get to go more all in on the goofy side as well, to explore some of those moments?
I think so. I think Jenny's really craving that in a way. There's something really. She's got a very cynical, sort of dry sense of humor to her. I think when people have been through a lot, very often they let things roll off their back. easier than a lot of people do, most people. So in a way, she's got this really heavy history, and she's very jaded and, whatever. But in another way, she kind of just lets a lot of things go.
Right.
And is able to be silly and stuff. So I hope that, I do hope we get to explore more of Jenny's lighthearted, silliness. But, and also as an actor, I would love to play more comedy.
Right.
So that would be awesome for me.
Do you also sometimes wish you could just sort of, I say this as a joke, but on the show it doesn't have to be a joke, which is magically leap into some of the flashbacks and the period piece stuff.
Totally. I know Jenny's kind of, I guess, the least likely to
Yeah.
travel back in time or forward in time or wherever the hell we decide to go.
Right.
But it would be awesome if she did.
Right.
Maybe they'll work it out. Hope so.
What do you think at this point her dynamic is like with Crane? Like, how are they getting along? Like, how do they, it's everyone's always talking about Abby and Crane, and they have their own thing, but she's part of it now. She's part of the group. So is she just kind of bemused by this guy?
I really love the relationship between Jenny and Crane, and I was surprised that so many fans have brought it up. Like, this is a really interesting dynamic. These two that aren't really drawn together besides the, Abby is the one that links them, but they have a really strong connection. I think Jenny really respects Crane for his persistence and his dedication to the fight. She's a warrior, and she sees that in Crane, and she really appreciates that and understands that. I think there have been times where she wondered what his intentions were with her sister. He's so obsessed with getting his wife back that maybe Jenny at certain times thought, okay, you need to step back and not risk my sister's life.
Right.
For your wife's life. But I think overall, they really like each other, and they have a really interesting banter when you let them sort of just, play off of each other. They have a similar sense of humor, which is interesting because they're, centuries apart.
Yeah.
But they have a certain dry wit that works.
And going forward, anything you can say about, Holly's kind of been this, wild card dynamic, both on the team and then obviously questions romantically about where that might go with the Mills sisters. But what can you say about his role going forward?
Yeah, a wild card for sure. He kind of just threw him in there and fight for your life.
Right.
What can I say about Holly? It was interesting to have this character come in that, him and Jenny are cut from the same cloth, and they have this history, and we do get to explore a little bit more of that as the season goes along. I won't say too much about how, but there's more to look at there. And it was really fun to play with Matt Barr. He's the best.
On this show, because death is malleable, and we have characters come and go. Yeah, is that also like kind of a cool, fun aspect for you? Not to imply that maybe a character who just died can come back, but just in general that it's like that these characters can filter in and out and pop up in weird ways.
Well, it is, as an actor who I've been acting for a little while now, not very long, but I remember on Nikita, every time I got a script, I'd sort of scan through to see, is Sonia dead?
Right.
And I do the same thing with Jenny.
Right.
But now on this show, it's like, okay, Jenny dead, does that mean she's dead?
Right.
Like gone, or does she come back? It's interesting. You still... usually when people die, they die.
Right,
but maybe it gives you a little bit of hope. Like if you die, you can possibly come back. I don't know. But it's safer to just not die. Yeah.
You mentioned Nikita. I'm a huge fan of that show. You had a good problem to have last year when you were doing both Sleepy Hollow and Nikita pretty much simultaneously. Was that just kind of like super hectic and crazy and? One week you're, doing your spy stuff, and the next week you're doing your supernatural stuff.
It was stressful. It was awesome that both shows wanted me, but unfortunately, there were administrative problems that happened, and it was very stressful.
Oh yeah.
So I'm happy it all worked out the way it did. But
Right.
For a moment there, I was I was stressed out.
Right.
But playing back and forth. In a way, Jenny and Sonia aren't that different. They're both sort of strong fighters. Sonia's quieter and speaks with a British accent.
Yes.
But, Jenny speaks with an American accent, which is different from mine anyway. So,
right, there you go.
From my Canadian, whatever it is.
Right.
I liked being able to go back and forth, though, because the more work, the better, really, for me. It's just more fun.
And I know it was a scheduling issue that you weren't in the Nikita finale, but were you happy that, like you said, on another show where you could die at any time, that your characters did get a happy ending?
Yes, yeah. I mean, well, the first season of Sleepy.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a cliffhanger for Jenny, and when
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
the script, it said Jenny Mills dead, maybe.
I
I was like,
that.
can
Wow.
someone tell me what this means?
Right.
So I didn't really know, but yes, I'm very happy that there was a sort of a happy ending for Jenny.
But on Nikita
Oh,
too.
on
yeah.
Nikita, absolutely. Gosh, that was such a great show because really I was hired for like 2 to 5 episodes on
Yeah.
the show, and so to be able to sort of almost create Sonia. It's not like they really knew where she was going to go, and then it was the chemistry between Aaron Stanford and I, and working with Melinda Clark and all of this, and they were like, oh, let's keep Sonia around. She gets along really well with these other characters and actors. So it was really, really satisfying to basically see it through. I felt like the story wrapped up. I really wish I could have been there for the last episode, but I feel satisfied with where Sonia went.
Circling back to Sleepy Hollow, you mentioned earlier, John Noble and how great he is. You got to watch him like monologue a bunch in the mid-season finale. I just imagine that must be awesome, just to like watch John Noble do his thing.
It's great. I mean, within that scene, we were all outside, tied up to trees, and just watching him hold the sword, give his monologue, and the trees are like resonating, and John Noble is speaking.
Right?
It's amazing. It's like a dream come true to work with that guy.
I know it's difficult to show all about secrets and not wanting to give away anything, but anything else you can tease as far as when we come back in general, but also for Jenny specific, what you're excited for people to see.
I think this season's interesting because it hasn't been Jenny-centric in any way, but it's dropped these seeds of different aspects of Jenny's personality, and you get to see more of that in the second half of the season as well. Just different sides to her. We saw so much of her toughness and her jadedness and her sort of, get things done warrior mentality in season 1 and the first half really of season 2. And she's definitely starting to round out a bit.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I know plenty of people are. Sleepy Hollow on Fox. Look for plenty more in Sleepy Hollow. Keep it here at IGN.